Welcome, age of vintage society. Some personalities are born in controversy, some grew up with it, while others thrive in it en route to fame. Gypsy Rose Lee is one character whose life was shrouded in all-around debate ranging from her actual birth date and real name to what she wanted in life, against the influential forces around her. Greatness is desirable regardless of the challenges. That appears to be the story of the world-famous stripper who created a special way of living the life she found herself. Why Gypsy Rose Lee had to grow up with a parasite? Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. Many will remember the word gypsy for what it is, while others are more concerned by those who made it more popular in the American entertainment industry. This is where Gypsy Rose Lee comes in. Gypsy Lee is someone that everyone would appreciate for her resolute amidst unfortunate influence and unnecessary control by an overzealous mother. Was her success a result of her mother's influences? That would be a subject for another debate, amidst unending controversies that became part of her growing up, from her spirited connection with her animal pets to an irregularity in the nuptial union that occasioned the brief nature of her intimate life. One would wonder how she got entangled with such a mother who played her like a card to satisfy her selfish desire. At the moment, Gypsy Lee's history will not be complete without a regular mention of her overbearing mother, who herself was not in tune with conventionalism. She wanted everything from her daughter, money, fame, and other things that she had judged were best for her, making her not just a villain of a mother, but a bad inspiration to humanity. The Witchwood Manor incident and the lesbian theory is just a few of Gypsy Lee's too many questions that analysts tried to answer over the years, with little or no conclusion, with many relying on hypotheses that were either proved to be mere suggestion or useless. Raised as a Catholic Christian, married and divorced 3 times, with no known religious affiliation in the latter part of her life, Gypsy Lee was able to have a career breakthrough after the initial hurdle that would define her true personality. This unique lady, who became highly rated across the globe as a celeb, left people wondering about her sexuality, even with those historic marriages and countless lovers of both genders. Some writers wrote of Gypsy Lee as of Jewish descent, but she wasn't. The discrepancy would continue, even as no one could ascertain why the misrepresentation was created in the first place. Gypsy Lee, who had her only child shortly after separating from her husband, had some sort of romantic predicaments that would make anyone wonder what she wanted. Eric, her son, would have lacked fatherly care if not for Otto Preminger, who was in the picture at the time and equally filled a vacuum created by her former husband. Her relationship with Preminger was remarkable in ways that people described it as very significant in Gypsy Lee's love affairs. Preminger was such a help not just to Gypsy Lee but to her son that he had to adopt him when she gave up the ghost. Rose Louise Hovick, the famous American burlesque artist, widely appreciated for her striptease performance and now known as Gypsy Rose Lee, was born in Seattle, Washington on 8th of January 1911. Her other widely celebrated skills are film acting and playwriting, including a famous memoir that was later approved in the 1959 stage musical Gypsy. One striking scenario about her childhood is the way her mother manipulated her and her sister's actual date of birth for personal interest. She was months apart from actress June Havoc, her younger sister, who was born sometime in 1912. Rose Thompson Hovick, their ambitious mother, exploited age and name forgery for various reasons, making them older if she wants the public to see them as a grown-up, and vice versa, thereby evading different state child labour laws and attracting reduced or free intercity transport fares as needed. This unfortunate manipulation would create an initial confusion for Gypsy Lee and her sister until later years when they figured out their real age. It does appear that Gypsy Lee's plight was not a concern for Rose Thompson, her mother, who was strongly associated with lesbianism. Although she was married twice to Norwegian-American John Olaf Hovig and Judson Brenneman, who both divorced her at different times. It was said that financial difficulties after her last husband left her devising to make money with her daughters. First it was June, as she became the tiniest toe dancer in the world when she was just 2 years plus. At a tender age, Gypsy Lee and her sister were taken to Hollywood for the same purpose. Gypsy Lee, being less useful at some point, were left behind while her sister and mother continue their ambitious expectation. It enables Gypsy Lee to acquire an elementary education, which June was not opportune to have, but was taught to read by stage hands, and so it was disheartening to their mother when June was reported to have eloped with Bobby Reed. It became Gypsy Lee's time to earn money for the family, as her mother tried so hard to position her for such. But it was noticeable that Gypsy Lee's singing and dancing skills could not provide enough without June. Amidst the search for a better alternative, it became apparent that burlesque could be an option. That was how Gypsy Lee ventured into the industry that would earn her the legendary status as an elegant and clever striptease artist. How was this wonderful talent discovered? A story was told of how a stage display that saw her gown's shoulder strap gave way, exposing her private parts as the dress slipped to her feet despite a swift effort by her to restrain it. It turned into a different show for the audience as she got an encouraging cheer. Motivated by the atmosphere, Gypsy Lee exploited the situation to her advantage and put up a wonderful performance that focused on the trick. This creativity appeared more like unplanned dance, because rather than the bump and grind styles of most burlesque dancers, she exhibited the tease seen in the strip tease pattern, while also creating a clever sense of humour. Then it became the new gold for exploitation, and Gypsy Lee not only became famous, but her performance invention also went viral as a new style. As she gained momentum, she had to adopt the stage name Gypsy Rose Lee, and subsequently became one of the principal superstars of Minsky's burlesque. Within 4 years of intensive performance, she had to be arrested regularly during raids of the Minsky brothers' displays. It was recorded that at the time of the Great Depression, she spoke publicly in union assemblies in support of New York labourers. If what activist Harry Fisher said about her is anything to go by, then her debates were among those that got the attention of most listeners. Appearing as Louise Hovig, she took part in 5 movies in Hollywood in 1937 and 38, but was commonly berated for some reasons, and so she went back to New York City and consolidated her affair with filmmaker Michael Todd. Gypsy Lee also co-produced and acted in Todd's 1942 musical satire, Star and Garter. On how she views herself, Gypsy Lee rates herself high and would go with ecdysiast as a better way of referring to her profession. Sometime in 1941 she wrote a mystery thriller book known as The G-String Murders. It was a success, as it was soon adopted in the cleansed 1943 film Lady of Burlesque that has Barbara Stanwyck. Rumours have it that the book was ghost-written by Craig Rice, but some findings suggest sufficient written manuscript evidence to link Gypsy Lee to a major part of the book, although under the supervision of other people like Rice and her editor George Davis. Her second murder mystery book, Mother Finds a Body, was in 1942, but it attracted litigation from Dorothy Wheelock, an associate editor of Harper's Bazaar, who sued for a breach of contract, alleging that she and Gypsy entered a gentleman's agreement about the book on a 50-50 income split basis that was violated in the build-up to that. Adding that Gypsy Lee called off the agreement at the wrong time only for her to go ahead and publish a related story, although she denied any resemblance of the book content to the former agreement with her accuser. The matter was settled out of court. Her first Hollywood marriage was with Arnold Bob Mizzy in 1937. It was alleged that her marriage to Mizzy may have been fueled by alcohol or mere stupidity. The couple was reported to have gone for a ride in a water taxi and asked the skipper to unite them at sea, which the skipper adhered to without any authorization to perform weddings for the couple, but they later legalized the union, although divorce was inevitable in 1941. She got married again to William Alexander Kirkland, but this too was short-lived, as the two were separated in 1944. At the time, while still married to Kirkland, she became pregnant, but after the separation gave birth to Eric, her only son. Gypsy Lee's son had an identity issue too. He was named Eric Lee, Eric Kirkland or Eric de Diego, before becoming Eric Lee Preminger, after adoption by Otto Preminger following Gypsy Lee's death. Before then she was also married for a third time with Julio de Diego in 1948, in a union that suffered a similar fate to the previous ones. Her mother, often referred to by writers as Mother Rose because she gave the same name to her daughter, was always against conventional marriage for either of her daughters, perhaps the reason her sister had to elope with her lover. Mother Rose would threaten and be ready to fight any man who dared to do so, and had to keep malice with Gypsy Lee each time she gets into a marriage contract. Recall that Gypsy Lee's mother continued to depend on her, and sometime in 1940 she purchased a townhouse in Manhattan and rented a 10-room flat on West End Avenue for her mother, where Mother Rose turned it into a boarding house for lesbians. Mother Rose's famous link to this lifestyle will surface here as she became an overseer of the house. When a lady who was a guest identified as Genevieve Augustine was found shot and killed, several reports emerged as regards the scene of the incident, mode of death, and the actual motive of the killer. The scandalous death that some writers described as the Witchwood Manor scandal was investigated and reportedly described as a suicide, but Gypsy Lee's son, who later became an author, had written the victim was Mother Rose's female lover, whom she alleged had made a pass at Gypsy Lee, although a school of thought absolves Mother Rose of such killing owing to the victim's suicide history. Gypsy Lee also wrote a memoir shortly after her mother's death, mainly about her ugly life, which inspired the Jules Stein, Stephen Sondheim and Arthur Lawrence musical Gypsy in 1959. The show and the 1962 film version became a regular income for Gypsy Lee. She had an interesting attachment to animal pets. Her pets attended her weddings, particularly identified with the dachshund and the 28-foot trailer, as they stood by while she took her marital vows. Her collection of pets includes 3 Chinese crested dogs, 2 Siamese cats, and more goldfish than is found in aquariums. She was quoted as saying, "I have a dark goldfish I named Sammy Davis Jr. and a very light one. I call that one May Britt." 4 dogs, a chimpanzee and a monkey, was also reported to have been present at her second wedding. Otto Preminger as a lover was helpful to Gypsy Lee, even as he claimed that he only had a one-night stand with her, but more interesting about their relationship is the fact that her son recently said that Otto Preminger is his real father. Eric Lee Preminger hinted in an interview how he discovered that Alexander Kirkland was never his biological father but Otto Preminger, even though Kirkland and Gypsy Lee were married at the time of her pregnancy. He recalls vividly that at age 17, when he needed a car, he had gone to Kirkland for money, only for him to drop a message for him through a therapist he was meeting at the time that he was not his father. Perhaps Gypsy Lee's relationship with Preminger began far longer before it was made public. One sure thing here would be the fact that she may have cheated on her husband at the time. Although I already heard some rumours, I asked him for money to buy a car, and the next time I saw my therapist he said, "Mr. Kirkland wanted me to know that he was not my father," Eric noted. Gypsy Lee, on her part, originally was not willing to reveal the identity of Eric's father, as he alleged that her mother told him that the identity of his father was none of his business when he confronted her with the question. It was not until he reached an agreement with her not to ever contact his father that she told him that Hollywood filmmaker Otto Preminger is his father. How Gypsy Rose Lee became so famous is still an issue for some people, as they describe the movie version of Gypsy as the reason for the overinflated privileges associated with her in the entertainment industry. How about her relationship with June, her sister? She, at a point in her life, had a running disagreement with her sister. June had frowned at her representation of their mother in her memoir. Apart from that, other issues often arises between them from time to time. One, June had opined that Gypsy Lee's lifestyle and link with gangster Waxy Gordon in the early 1930s is an aspect of her that she hated. Gypsy Rose Lee died on the 26th of April 1970 when she turned 59 as a result of lung cancer in Los Angeles. It seems the fame she enjoyed within her period and her memoirs, including Broadway musical appearances, helped to refine her image. It was also said that she did not make the celebrity A-list. Critics believed that Gypsy Lee's best decision was titling the musical that involved her mother as Gypsy. They said it created a lasting memory of a sort. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. It's incredible how common it is in Hollywood for your own mother to make your life miserable. Why Tuesday Weld had a nervous breakdown at 9. Find out from this video.